What's up, Sono peeps? Welcome back to my channel. So I'm very excited today, not only because today is the Lord's Day, thank you Jesus, but also because today's video is going to be our very first episode of SonoStories. Yay! So guys, I didn't expect this series to blow up as much as it did, but you guys came through. I put out the Google form and I was like, it's probably not gonna get that much responses because it's a new episode and I'm not a very big creator, so I was just like, leave it to God, and you guys came through. God came through and you guys came through. So I have a few responses that I have picked out. I'm going to start with the shortest and then go into the longest because you guys went in. So our very first episode topic of SonoStories was, what is your craziest ER story? And I specified to, first of all, not put any information out there that might get us in trouble with HIPAA. And I also mentioned that it doesn't have to be a story that you were necessarily a part of. It could be something that you heard, or maybe someone else's story. Just any crazy ER story that you've heard that we can share here, preferably about ultrasound, but the ER is just so vast that crazy stories aren't always ultrasound related. I guess I should share mine first. My crazy ER story, I don't work for a very big hospital, so it's not like we have a trauma department, so it's not like we get a Grey's Anatomy scene with a whole bunch of like car accidents or like boat accidents, anything crazy like that, but I have a few. One time I had to assist the CT tech in moving a patient onto the CT bed because he got into a really bad ATV accident and he was covered in gashes from like head to toe, and it was like, I really felt bad for the guy. And when the CT tech was like, so were you going fast, like how did this happen? And the guy was just like, oh, I was showing off. So I just thought it was funny. He had a really good sense of humor about it. But those ATVs and those bikes are pretty dangerous, and we've had to care for people that have had those types of accidents. I also one time had to do a venous study on a guy who was shot. He had like a gunshot wound to his leg, and when I was setting up or whatever, asking him like, you know, like what's bringing you in, is there any areas, you know, because we're pushing down, compressing, doing augment on the legs. I was like, is there any areas that's still tender, because they had already dressed the wound and everything. And he was like, oh no, this is like my 9th time getting shot. And I was like, sir? And he was like, yeah, there should be bullet fragments still in that leg from like the last time I got shot. And I was like, oh, okay. And I actually did see on ultrasound the bullet fragment, and I noted it because it was in my picture in one of my the vein compression images. And yeah, so I noted, I was like, hey guys, by the way, these are bullet fragments. They look pretty cool. Basically, if you don't know what bullet fragments looks like on ultrasound, it was basically still in like his muscle, I think. It was still pretty like superficial, and for some reason they just decided not to take them out. I don't know. And they're just like these little like straight, sometimes some of them were square, some of them were like very long, and they were just like very echogenic, kind of like bone, and like they had shadowing posterior. It was actually kind of cool, and I was just like, oh, cool. But I did tell the patient, I was just like, yeah, you need to be careful. And he was like, yeah. So I don't think he's being careful. So let's get into these submissions. Submission number 1. I assisted a doctor drain a tonsil abscess using a transvaginal probe. It was my first time ever seeing that type of procedure. A transvaginal probe? How'd that work? Did you just... I'm gonna need more information on how that worked. Like I can't imagine that. Like, did the doctor say to use the T-Vag probe, or did you just use it? I need more information. Like, if you're watching this, I'm gonna need more info on this. I once witnessed a resident improperly lance a cyst on a patient's back the size of a tennis ball, and it exploded everywhere, and oh my gosh. And it smelled really bad. Yeah, I bet. I bet it did. That's crazy. It was a resident. Okay. I know we're all here to learn. That's crazy though. That's so crazy. A patient was transferred to my hospital from another city, flew in through an airplane because the ultrasound tech said they had gallstones, but when we scanned them at our hospital, they didn't have any gallstones. Wait a minute. So I'm assuming that this other tech was in a smaller hospital where they didn't maybe do cholecystectomies, but to fly them in through a plane and then to do all that just to see that they didn't have any gallstones. I'm gonna need this text info. Like, for real. No, that's crazy. I would be pretty upset if that happened to me. My Sono friend asked me to share on her behalf. Yay, we love to see it. A woman comes telling staff she's in labor with twins. The patient has had no prenatal care and isn't sure exactly how far along she is. The only thing the patient knows is she's in her 3rd trimester and it's about time to deliver. Sheesh. The ER calls in my friend, stating they need her to get an estimated fetal weight for both twins while they wait to transfer her to L&D. That's crazy. Both of them? I mean, obviously both of them, but dang, call it. Okay. No tests have been done on this patient, no beta, not even a dipstick pregnancy test. I hate when that happens. I really do. I have to tell you guys about a call night that I had like 2 nights ago. It was insane. My friend rushes into the ER, sets down the camera, nothing there. Actually nothing, not even a uterus. Sono friend informs ER that ordered all these tests, including an abdomen and pelvic CT. This patient looks pregnant with twins. Nobody questioned it. Patient has had a complete hysterectomy and no acute findings in the CT. You guys. I know we're always supposed to believe the patient because they know what's wrong with their body and stuff. But sometimes I find that these patients are either poor historians or they don't quite remember what surgeries or what they've had done to them. So you kind of have to rely on clinical correlation for these kinds of things. Because can you imagine waking up at stupid o'clock in the morning for an estimated fetal weight on twins? And then when you put the probe down, there's nothing there. I would feel like I don't know how to do my job, because how is it twins and she's about to give birth and there's nothing there? I would freak out. That's crazy. By the way, this call night I was telling you guys about, basically I was woken up at disrespectful time in the morning for a patient that was having vaginal bleeding, and also the rec said confirmed pregnancy. So it's like, okay, why would you need an ultrasound for that? But whatever. And apparently the patient, she was still in her late teens. What's today, Thursday? On Friday night, she took a pregnancy test because she said she missed her period, and it came back positive. Now, then she started spotting a little bit, nothing crazy. She took a pregnancy test again a couple days later. It came out positive, but more faded. I don't know what she thought that meant. And so then she comes into the ER like 2.5 days later. I say a half because it was like 1 a.m. And I guess she tells the ER this, and they order an ultrasound, first of all. I don't know why. They also took her blood, but the thing is that I think this is a thing with a lot of hospitals, because I've seen it happen time and time again. Basically, the ER will not do the beta HCG test before they order an ultrasound. They just take the patient's word for it that they're pregnant. And then by the time the tech gets there and scans and there's nothing there, all of a sudden, oh yeah, HCG came back and it's negative, or it's like 1, something stupidly low like that. And it's really frustrating because it's like you could have clinically correlated without this ultrasound, because it's not like we're going to see anything in the first place. So yeah, this girl, she was pretty young. When I come into the room to take her for ultrasound, she and her boyfriend are like giggling, making jokes or whatever. And I'm like, it didn't seem like she was concerned for a pregnancy or possible pregnancy loss. So I was like, whatever, I'm not gonna judge. I go take her, whatever. I didn't see anything. I take her back. I come back and the HCG comes back. You guys, tell me why it came back 1. I was so upset. And then the doctor put on the rec something like, oh, and by the way, when I asked this girl what was her last menstrual period, it was Christmas Eve. A month had just passed. And when I calculated her LMP, the machine said that she would be 4 weeks, 4 days. So yeah, regardless, I didn't see anything. So then the doctor says that the HCG came back 1, and she wrote in the rec, possible menses, but spontaneous abortion is not excluded. I was like, man, you know what? I'm not a doctor, so it's whatever. I just hate when that happens. So hats off to you techs that put up with that, because I don't know if there's any way around it. Okay, next story. I have 2 that come to mind immediately, but I know there are several others. Please share. The first one was more recent. I was called in to scan a guy in the ER for abdominal pain. He had a CT beforehand, which showed a large mass or possible abscess in the liver. He was in immense pain, doing his best to hold his breath for me when I need him to. Yeah, that sucks. I saw 2 large masses in his liver, one of which was so large it encompassed nearly the entire organ. I also saw a mild amount of complex ascites around the liver. The patient eventually told me to stop scanning, so I didn't finish my assessment for the rest of the organs. Another CT was ordered because the ER doc suspected he may be bleeding internally. I think the patient ended up coding in CT and died a short time later. Turns out the large mass in his liver was so big, it tore some blood vessels and he bled out. This man was literally bleeding out and dying right in front of me when I was scanning him, and I had no idea. He also had no idea he had a liver mass. He wasn't very old, maybe late 40s, mid 50s, and was helping his daughter with her homework the night before. That's... I don't even know what to say to that. That is crazy. Can you imagine being fine and then the next day you're like not? That's so sad. The second case, I was scanning a virgin? Is that the word for it? Virginal? I didn't even know that. Anyways, I was scanning a virginal 35-year-old woman for bleeding. I did a pelvic on her. I knew something was going on, but due to her body habitus, I couldn't tell what. I needed to do an endovaginal ultrasound to get a better look, and luckily she consented. Yeah, that's good. The patient gets up to use the restroom and is hemorrhaging blood the whole way. While she was in there, I'm using chucks to scoop up blood clots from the floor. I noticed the blood-drenched linens on the bed, fresh chucks down, and used Santa Claus wipes to wipe the floor clean. I do the endovag, and she has a massive cervical mass with a large vascular stalk that we think tore, which was what was causing the bleeding. She ended up going to surgery, and the pathology came back as cervical cancer. She had never had a pap smear because she had never been sexually active, so this was never caught. Wow. I'm gonna need more stories from you. But it's really sad about that one patient. And unfortunately, this is stuff that we have to see and endure and be there for the patient no matter what happens, and we can't be emotional. So I'm very sorry that happened, and I'm very sorry that you went through that too, because I can't imagine having to find out later on that he was dying right in front of you and you didn't even know. I would feel like, I don't even know how I would feel. How would you even cope with that? It was my holiday to take call, and I got called in to scan a 5-month-old baby for suspected intussusception. Apparently for nearly the baby's entire life, she was spiking fevers and mom would give Tylenol and take her to the ER. The docs couldn't find anything wrong, and after so many visits, she became known as a frequent flyer and just wanted something to give the baby to make her sleep. I go to do my scan, and all I can see throughout the entire stomach is gas. So my first thought is, no wonder this baby is hurting. She has major gas pains. I'm using a high frequency transducer, and I thought I couldn't just turn in a bunch of pictures of nothing, aka gas. So I switched to a lower frequency with a wider footprint. Good call. Because of the wider footprint, when I started at the right upper quadrant where the liver was, I saw a huge pleural effusion. This prompted a chest x-ray, and the baby was flown to a nearby children's hospital for further testing and had to have the fluid drained from around her lung. Turns out the fluid was caused by a neuroblastoma, and the specialty doctor said that one more day without treatment and the baby would have died. She will be 4 this year. Good job. Like, seriously, good. This is an example of a tech who cares about their patients. And I'm not saying that there are techs that don't. But there are techs that would see gas and would be like, okay, this is the problem, and cut it there. But this is amazing. Thank you so much for what you did with this patient, because I'm sure the mom was stressed out and just trying to figure out what's going on, and that the ER docs were just saying like, oh, that she's just a frequent flyer and whatever, because there are some people who have been in the field so much that they just start assuming things. They become numb and they say, okay, there's nothing wrong with you, and that's it. You must be faking it. Or I've heard doctors say after treating a patient that, oh, that they're just faking it. And then an x-ray comes back that no, they actually broke their femur or something, you know? It's just really sad for our patients, and it's actually a miracle and a saving grace when there is that one tech or that one nurse or just somebody that wants to take these people a little bit more seriously. So that was amazing that you did that, and I'm glad that you shared. It could be a motivation for other techs to really find out what's going on and get to the bottom of things, because some things aren't always obvious and black and white, literally. So in ultrasound, sometimes you just have to do a little bit more digging. I once had a clinical instructor tell me that if you keep looking for it and it's not there, that means it's not there, or something like that. I never really paid attention to him because I know that there are some pathologies that actually are there and require a little bit of digging, and there are some techs that'll be like, okay, well, the pancreas looks fine, you know, and then all of a sudden they have a pseudo aneurysm right under it or something like that. And sometimes it's worth taking that extra couple seconds of time or a couple minutes to save a patient's life. But you guys, this was our very first Sono Stories episode, and I really enjoyed all of these stories. And it really opens my eyes to all that can happen in the world of ultrasound, and even not in the world of ultrasound, just in the world of medicine in general. So if you enjoyed this week's Sono Stories and you'd like to make a submission for the next one and all the ones to come, I will be posting the link to the Google form in the description down below. And I will be announcing when the next Sono Stories is and what the topic is going to be. The Google form will also be in the link in my Instagram bio, so make sure to check there. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Comment any stories that you think would make an honorable mention. And if you have any other suggestions for any other topic or question that you would like to see answered, make sure to also make your way to the Google form. And you can also, there's a submission there where you can answer that question as well. So I hope you have a blessed and wonderful day and keep saving lives out there. Bye!